All right, so your name and title.
Hello, my name is Mark Mooseburner, and I am a PhD candidate at the University of California at San Diego in the Scripps Institute of Oceanography.
What science are you currently working on, if you can talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about my research. I am working on CRISPR-Cas9 genetic engineering in marine diatom. There's a kind of algae.
Is that the science that you're passionate about? I mean, most passionate about. Obviously, you're passionate about it, but most passionate.
Yeah, before I started my degree, I already worked in CRISPR-Cas9 research in human cells. And I wanted to stay in that field of genetic engineering, synthetic biology, but apply it to another organism. And that's what I accomplished. Yeah, and I want to continue doing that in the future, driving synthetic biology to higher places.
Who has been an inspiration to you? And it doesn't have to be a scientist, or it can be.
One scientist that's an inspiration to me, I worked in his laboratory at Harvard Medical School, is Dr. George Church. He was one of the members of the Human Genome Project that sequenced the first human genome, and he has pioneered genome sequencing and genetic engineering tools. And not just for his research, but how he structured his lab of free-flowing ideas. He really never said no to anything. He wanted to be shown that it was possible, not to shut you down immediately. So I liked his view on science in general.
I love that. I see.
Yeah.
So what kind of high school student were you?
What kind of high school student? I very much focused on science. So right off the bat in high school, I stopped taking a language because you're supposed to take, I took Spanish all during middle school, and I had the option to not take it anymore in high school. And I was like, yes. So I jumped onto a second science, and I was trying to take as much as I can. I wasn't, as a biologist right now, I was actually not so much into biology. I was really into physics. So I was really into quantum mechanics and quantum physics early on in my life. What was string theory, multiple dimensions, what is time? It's actually space-time, that kind of stuff. But I also was a jock. I played tons of sports, and so that was really the balance of my life. I played sports and was active, but I loved chemistry and physics to my core.
If you can give your high school self advice from your present self, like you're Marty McFly, and you went back, in the future, you're like, hey, Mark, this is what you should be doing, what would you say?
I kind of like what I'm doing now, so I'm not sure if I would have so much advice for myself, but maybe I hadn't realized that because I couldn't tell the future in high school. But I would say go through the open doors that are in front of you, because there's not a lot of doors that'll open for you, and there's not a lot of opportunities where you can say yes. And I chose to say yes to a lot of opportunities, such as I moved to San Diego to go to graduate school, knowing nobody, flew halfway across the country away from my family. I could have said no, and stayed in Boston, but I didn't. And so that was one example where I, didn't say no. So I would tell myself, keep on grasping at the, opportunities that are in front of you, because sometimes they'll slip away and they're not going to come back.
2 random facts that I could not guess about you and also could not be Googled until after we post this.
You might be able to Google this. But I used to be a male model, and that used to be my income. And I started male modeling in Abercrombie and Fitch. So I had a detour from science after my undergraduate, where I was the guy screaming in the front of the store at every single person that came into the store, hey, how are you doing? That was my job. I stood in front of a store and put a smile on, and that's it.
You're a greeter.
And then I also did some other print stuff. So that was my non-science career for about 2 years. Yeah.
That is amazing. I totally didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's another reason to not say no to anything, because I could have said no to that job. It was nothing to do with biomedical engineering. That was my degree, but I wanted to stay in Boston because Boston's a hub of biotechnology. And I eventually, 2 years later, did get a job in a biotechnology field, in a synthetic biology lab. But the opportunity to stay in the area, but just to say yes, because I had a job that was offered to me, and I was signed to a modeling agency, and I said, okay, this is what I'll do for now, and I'll think about the other stuff later, and it'll come to me, and it did. So.
That's amazing. So I know that you've been with us a lot doing education outreach, and it's a big passion of yours, is to reach back and lift kids up and inspire them to do things. What's the most favorite thing you've done do when you teach kids? What excites you about teaching kids in classrooms?
So I haven't had that much experience in classrooms. I've done a lot of the field trips, and I love interacting with kids. I have two cousins that are 10 and 11, and they love science too. So any opportunity I can drill down into, like, what are you interested in, and kind of explain, I'm a scientist, so I know that I might know more than these kids, but I love even challenging myself, like, okay, can I explain like the basics? And I love, not only just telling them, but really engaging with them with questions and with things right in front of them. Like when we were on the beach, I would just pick up a thing of seaweed, and that you could spend half an hour interacting with these kids if you ask the right questions about what seaweed is and what they think it is, and really relate it to their own life in a way. So, and especially in a group, I may have learned that in Abercrombie by shouting at tons of people all day. So I'm good at shouting and conveying a message to a group of people. So I enjoy doing that.
Nice. So teachers, call up on Mark. You could talk about CRISPR. You could talk about biology. You could talk about physics. Wow. So call them up, have them in your classroom, have them inspire your kids. You guys will have a really good time doing that. All right, Mark, thank you so much for this little interview, and we're gonna put you up on Direct Connect. All right, man, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Excited to be here.